Terry, could you please introduce yourself? Tell us a bit
Certainly,
about your role.
Of course, yeah. Hi, everybody. I'm Terry Murphy. I'm the marketing manager for ES Broadcast and the ES Media Group. So my day job is all marketing activities for the group of companies. I'm particularly focused on content, but also advertising, e-commerce, events, trade shows, that kind of thing. I always say my involvement in GDPR was, I made the mistake of showing an interest in the subject back in sort of 2017, 2018, and got landed with GDPR. But it fits very well with marketing. We're the primary users of the data that we hold, especially around consent and preference management. But I would say I'm not a DPO, I'm not a GDPR expert, but I am someone who deals with those topics on a practical basis day to day in my job.
Excellent. So this is also where DataGuard can support ES Media. So can you tell us something about ES Media? You said this is a group, so how it is structured, what is your complexity, and what services do you offer?
Yeah, certainly. Services-wise, we work in the broadcast and media industry. We're a leading provider to some of the biggest names in that sector. So we sell and rent equipment like cameras and lenses. We build television studios, outside broadcast trucks and production facilities. And then another of our companies provides archiving services for legacy formats. So effectively they digitize tapes on an industrial scale. So if you've got sort of tapes or film that is 50 years old, we'll turn that into a file-based asset that you can then leverage. The group itself is quite a complex structure. There's been a lot of rapid growth, some acquisitions in the last couple of years. We have a nominal parent company, but data decisions still largely rest with the individual entities, even down to the fact they each have their own CRM. There isn't a unified CRM across the whole group yet. So that means we have no uniform data protection process, no centralized consent and preference management source of truth, effectively. And to add into that, then there's an international nature to the group as well. Most divisions operate in multiple territories, so across EMEA, North America. We've got an office in New Zealand that opened about 12 months ago as well. So quite a lot of complexity to kind of try and make sense of.
That sounds indeed very complex and very interesting. So now that we have learned that the consent and the preferences we are talking about is about getting the consent from your customers so you can communicate with them. And to learn about the preferences, so what do they really want to build relationships? Why do you think this concept or doing this properly is important for ES Media?
Yeah, I mean, the very simple answer would be the compliance side of things, but I think it goes much further than that for us. You can be compliant simply by never marketing to your customers, and that's actually exactly where we've been for the last sort of 5 or 6 years. We've been very stagnant and not communicating with probably the most valuable sort of data pool that we have, which is our own existing customers. So consent and preference management for us, and I'm sure this will be the case for a lot of businesses, is about leveraging that kind of valuable data resource and doing that in a compliant way, trying to reach them in an effective manner that means we're not going to miss out on the opportunities that otherwise we would have had. I think some of the benefits that we would hope to see when we actually kind of get our CPM fully embedded into the system, into the company. At the moment, our way of reaching customers is through other channels rather than through our own channels. So that obviously attracts a lot of spend with it on third-party emails, pay-per-click advertising, web banners, events and trade shows. The kind of things that really we should be focusing on reaching new people, but we're also reliant on that to reach our existing customers at the moment. So preference management and the consent side of things is hopefully going to allow us to do that, reach our own customers in a more relevant and therefore more effective way, allow us to tailor our communications and marketing to what they actually want, which hopefully then equals engagement, which equals conversion to sales for us. And I think finally it allows us to be hopefully more automated and efficient. Again, the existing customers we have, a lot of the relationship management with them is very manual, carried out by account managers. Knowing the kind of people's preference management, having their consent to market to them allows us to be much more hybrid in that approach, and it makes marketing play a supporting role for the sales team, help them nurture customers through the sales pipeline, and they only need to actually kind of reach out and make a physical interaction with the customer at the point that it's right to do so, that we've managed to kind of bring them through that pipeline with a lot less manual work.
Indeed, and the next question about dangers and disadvantages of not having this. I mean, you mentioned you have to be compliant if you want to communicate with your customers, so you cannot just willy-nilly send out emails or do other communications with them. And the disadvantages, can you? So you said you cannot communicate with them, you cannot market to them. Can you tell us a bit more around that?
Yeah, well, exactly that. But obviously, a big danger is non-compliance, but equally the business risk to us is that we sit very stagnant on the relationships that we have with it, that we should be leveraging with our existing customers. Over the last few years, we've erred on the side of caution, not marketed to people who would probably like to hear from us, and just because we don't really know that. So being very, very kind of cautious about reaching out to them with any marketing because of fear of non-compliance. I think by not knowing what their preferences are as well, our risk is that we might be sending irrelevant marketing materials, irrelevant communications. We'll see them kind of disengage with the company, become annoyed at receiving things that aren't relevant. Potentially people then unsubscribe and we lose that avenue of communication with them. That's going to have a detrimental impact on the relationship, or else it puts it back onto our sales team to then have to be kind of much more manually managing that relationship, and we're losing some valuable touch points with the client that way, and potentially to the point where they may completely unsubscribe, disengage with the company because simply they have the impression that we don't know what their interests are, what their business needs are, because we're sending them communications that just aren't relevant to them at all.
Makes total sense. And so this is basically your customers, like everyone also here in the room. When you get information, they want to get meaningful information, something that they want to hear about, and not something you're totally not interested in.
Absolutely.
So now this brings me to the next point. Why did you choose to go with us, to go with DataGuard? Are there any key reasons, or what is there something special behind it?
Yeah, I think we were already working with DataGuard as our DPO and our data privacy consultants, and that relationship goes back a couple of years now. And a lot of what appealed at the first point there was around the GDPR platform and audit platform that DataGuard offer, allowing us to kind of manage our data protection in a centralized and effective way. I mean, really, the consent and preference management came about from taking part in a webinar that DataGuard invited us to, which really opened up our eyes to kind of the key challenge of consent and preference management. It's clear DataGuard knew the subject matter, and there was a sort of happy cadence that we were trying to work out how we could actually start to access our own data again and make use of the quite large, loyal customer base that we have. I think the DataGuard platform was a big selling point for us in terms of the consent and preference management tool I offer. It quite neatly addressed the problem that we've had and that we've struggled with for several years, which is how do we actually gather and record that consent and those preferences in a way that then relates back to the practical use of the data we have across different platforms, like Salesforce, MailChimp, HubSpot that we're hoping to implement a bit later this year, and then the wider group as well, as I say, are on different CRMs. So some people are using Microsoft Dynamics as well. So the fact the platform integrates with those key systems, even though those systems might be different from company to company, it means we don't have to create a different CPM solution for each entity. There's something ready-made out of the box that sits in a very central position and pushes that data into all our systems.
Very great. So integrations are really a big part of this, and you basically answered one of the following upcoming questions. But let me first ask, so now that we have talked about what it is and what you need about it, so how would you describe we are working together? So for the audience, we are now in the phase of implementing the system together with Terry, his colleagues, and ES Media. So how does it go so far? So is it here is the software, go do it, or how is our approach? What do you think about it?
I mean, it's been a very simple process, really. Very collaborative and supportive. I think the fact that DataGuard already had an understanding of our organisation was beneficial, but obviously the consent and preference management team was a slightly different team to bring up to speed with the complexities of our business. I think one of the big points of value to us was kind of listening to the complexity of our organisation, being able to propose a solution which was to roll out the consent and preference management tool to choose the company that was best placed to benefit from it first. So not look at all sort of 6 or 7 companies within the group, but to look at the one that's in a really good position to work with it. So that would be ES Broadcast, which has a large potential audience that we want to reach. Quite good data around that. We have established marketing activities. We have Salesforce in place for that. It's quite well maintained. So that seemed the best starting point to the team at DataGuard. And we'll kind of roll things out there and then look to expand. Once that's kind of bedded in, we'll roll out to the rest of the group. And then the kind of process from that, we've had kind of key stakeholder meetings to provide us training, guide us through the integrations with Salesforce, our website, MailChimp, and when we get to it, HubSpot as well will be another one, and how to customize those tools for our specific use. So there's been support and collaboration and kind of conversations all the way through that's been really helpful to us.
Thank you very much. So I will skip the next question because you already talked about the importance of integrating our CPM platform into the various tools like HubSpot and Salesforce, so that you don't have to use just another tool, but you use the data within your own tools. So that's the thing about it. But what could you give the audience as an advice or as a tip maybe when they are now coming into contact with the consent and preference management? And are thinking maybe about how could we implement this? Do we really need this? Is there any tip you could give the audience?
Yeah, I think that's kind of where we were a few months ago and had been for several years, that we didn't really have a clear understanding about consent and preference management and what the benefits might be. So we were aware that we had this issue. We didn't know how to solve it. We didn't really see the steps beyond just getting our data, our house in order in terms of data and being able to use it. So I think particularly the preference management side of things and how that feeds back into our actual marketing plans and our communication strategy was something that DataGuard really brought to our attention. So my advice would be to talk to an expert like DataGuard. It was only really through the webinar and the meetings that we had that this came up on our radar, made us realise that solving our problem was not just about GDPR compliance, it's about effective marketing communication. And now we're in the position that there's a light at the end of a tunnel for a problem that's really held us back for the last several years. And I think we're much more hopeful that we're not only going to be compliant, but that actually we'll see some genuine business benefit in terms of how we can effectively reach people and engage much better than we have been.
Great. So you just spoke about the last couple of years. So let's look into the future. What do you see as a challenge for your business in the privacy and compliance space for the next 12 months? What is there on your radar? What is top on your list?
Probably a couple of things. I think the main goal of this is of our whole GDPR approach is to adopt a unified approach to privacy across the organisation that we've seen with, particularly with acquisitions of companies, but even before that, the kind of different elements of the group would have different approaches to data privacy. So that's a key challenge, is to continue that journey to ensure we have a unified approach that kind of conforms to the best business practice, regardless of what what regions we're in. Some may have less stringent laws than others, but that we can kind of conform to the best practice across our group and know that everyone's doing everything in the same manner. I think that part of the challenge for us is not just complying; it's actually being able to demonstrate that in an outward-facing way. So more and more companies within the group are working with public bodies, with government organisations, and privacy with those types of clients goes beyond just ensuring that we're not breaking any rules. We actually need to show how we're putting privacy at the centre of our business activities. So I think that's a key challenge for us in the next sort of year or so. And I think finally integrating the consent and preference management into our what we hope will be an automated marketing strategy going forwards. So bringing new tools on board to allow us to be more automated in our marketing, to nurture potential clients through the pipeline, through the sales pipeline, in a more effective way that is also more engaging for them, and kind of brings them to the point where when our sales team contact them, it's the right time to actually contact them, and we've had been providing them with relevant content that has got them to the point of being very engaged with the company and wanting to actually do business with us.
Thank you very much, and we will make sure to accompany you there and support where we could.